ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Good morning and welcome to the Voice of Charity. I am Phil Zepeda of Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Chicago, and I'm here with my colleague, Katie Bredemann. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning, Phil.
And we are so glad that you're here with us every Tuesday morning, or just this Tuesday morning, listening on WNDZ 750 AM in Chicago, and those watching the live stream on social media at Catholic Chicago. So as we've discussed before on the Voice of Charity, Catholic Charities has a wide variety of print, broadcast, and digital mediums to share our mission and share news about our work to witness a message of mercy and hope to a world in need. We share those with our constituencies, with our public, with our donors at large, with our volunteers, all different audiences. Spirit Magazine is one of those longtime publications that is issued 3 times a year, and each issue each issue is about telling those important stories and sharing the news within the organization. There's always a great deal of excitement and anticipation about it.
You're so right, Phil. Spirit Magazine is highly regarded for its gripping client stories, wonderful photography, along with Catholic Charities' seasonal news and event updates that help readers stay informed about and connected to our work. The spring 2023 issue of Spirit is just about to arrive in subscribers' homes, and here to give us a sneak peek is Editor Rose Sweeney. Welcome, Rose.
Hey, guys.
Welcome, Rose. And folks that are watching the live stream or listening should recognize that this is the first time that we've had an in-person guest in the studios for the Voice of Charity. So, Rose, we're so thrilled that you're joining us.
Oh, this is really exciting for me.
Excellent, excellent. So Rose helped engineer. Rose is not new to Spirit Magazine. She's serving as the editor for this edition. But she did the graphic design work for the fall 2022 edition, which was our reintroduction of that publication after going dormant for a number of years. We unveiled an exciting, fresh new look to the magazine, very well received. So as editor of this particular edition, for the spring edition, were there certain elements of Spirit that you wanted to be sure to carry over from the last issue, from that first relaunch issue?
Of course. I mean, one of the things about the first issue of Spirit was that it really announced the new brand, the new graphic identity for Catholic Charities of Chicago. But in addition, it has an energy to it, which really kind of shows that the organization is thriving, that the organization is contemporary, it's moving forward. There's just a lot of wonderful things that comes across with a graphic brand. And so this issue is very much in line with that, and I think that it helps readers. It sort of just continues and builds upon that launch of the new brand of Catholic Charities.
And for me, you tapped into it right away. It's a very contemporary look at an organization that's well over 100 years old. So 100%. you want to make it approachable. You want to make it engaging,
right? Especially
for younger supporters of the organization.
Well, I think it's also about being relevant, And I know that there's the really nice thing about the brand. It wasn't a rebrand. It was a brand evolution, because it didn't take away that core sort of identifying cross and the red and those types of things, but it just brought it into 2021. And I think it also, when Spirit was relaunched last fall, and then now, this is like a new time. we're out of the pandemic, you know, and we're talking a lot about that in this issue, I think, about where we are.
And the planning for each edition is such a creative process, right? There's so many great things happening inside Catholic Charities within our programs and our services to people in need that we often have more content than we have space for in an edition. So what were your thoughts and ideas as stories were being selected for this issue? Tell us how that process went. I have a little insights into it, but I want to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, Phil, you know this obviously, and as do you, Katie. Every quarter, Catholic Charities adopts a theme, and usually to sort of frame that theme is a piece of scripture, a quote from a prominent thinker, and for this one, we selected a poem. That is, I have to say, one of my favorite poems in the world, and it's gotten me through a lot of moments. And working with Sally Blount, the president and CEO of Catholic Charities, we really thought a lot about what does this mean and how can we use this to shape and bring together a unified message for readers.
Can you share that poem with us, Rose?
Sure. It's a poem called Don't Hesitate by Mary Oliver. And I might truncate it a little bit. And there's a nice quote in the magazine, a part of it. But she says, "If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give in to it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb." So for this issue, we say on the cover, choose joy. And I've thought a lot about this, and there's that line where she says, you notice it when love begins. And I was talking to Sally about it, and I said, well, people often think of romantic love. That's when love begins. But no, this is all these other wonderful pieces of love, and you see it in this issue. When you fall in love with your community, when you fall in love with yourself, when you fall in love with God, when you fall in love with your baby, all of these, when you fall in love with your career, with your calling,
your ministry,
with your ministry,
with helping your
neighbor, and that is joy. And the Pope speaks a lot about joy, and he said, there's this fabulous quote. I was laughing about it because he said, for some Catholics, they feel like they're caught in an endless Lent without ever having the arrival of Easter, and as Catholics, I know that there are some of us that think this is our, you can't have joy, but no, this is a gift, and Sally writes really, really eloquently about that.
You can never lose sight of that reminder about joy, about choosing joy,
right.
and that it's not meant to be a crumb, right?
No.
Build it in your life and
right.
seek ways to do that, as you mentioned, through your community, through your ministry, through your love of your neighbor.
Right. The Pope says joy is proof that we are joy is the knowledge that we are endlessly loved. And it's this idea that, and we have to remember this, and, whether it's in the pandemic, we have to see these moments, or in our daily lives, it's important, and it just really dovetails really well with spring.
You're so right, and it's just a great theme to permeate all of the products of the communications department. This spring, this quarter, we're all focusing on
fun one,
choose joy and celebrate that. But going back to Spirit Magazine,
yes.
Could you remind our audience, Rose, a little bit about the basic elements of Spirit? We've got, as I said at the top of the show, we're covering events of Catholic Charities, we're covering news of Catholic Charities, but there's some other segments
right.
that you were using as a guide for this issue. Can you remind our audience what those segments of Spirit Magazine are?
Well, Spirit is a wonderful way. In addition, like one of the audiences, Spirit is a way to have people understand what we're doing, and it's a way for us to share what's happening internally. We talk a lot about some new initiatives we have. We also are able to talk about our partnerships, what we're doing with our partners in the field. We have a letter from the CEO. We have opportunities for people to partner with us about how they engage more deeply with our work. And then there's also vignettes and stories about our work and action, faith in action, and how we're fulfilling our mission.
You also feature like parish partnerships, right? And what's going on in the parishes and the vicariates. There's so many teams of folks around the Archdiocese who are dedicated to the work of Catholic Charities, and you always want to highlight that in Spirit each issue too, right?
Yes, thank you. Yes, and this particular parish, we highlight 2 parishes that are involved in an initiative that is in partnership with the Archdiocese of Chicago, focused on supporting migrants, and it's just a really wonderful story and how they're welcoming them. And then we also have a really wonderful feature where we reached out to faith leaders in our community to comment and talk a little bit about what community means to them.
So and we're sharing on our live stream here. Some of the page captures from the edition with the remarkable photography, and I want to spend a couple minutes on this before we throw it to break. Rose, like the photography, the visual imagery here is incredibly important, right? And you recognize for a device like this that is landing in people's mailboxes, you've got one opportunity to capture their fascination, really, with a profound cover, and that's what I want to talk about it. Yeah. So if we can show the cover of the edition, either there it is, right there, really just moving and striking, and again, so profound. I don't use that word easily. Tell us everything about this photograph, its selection, how it came to be, because it's so beautiful and speaks volumes.
Right. This was just a really wonderful experience for me. First of all, the woman that is featured on this cover, and for those of you who aren't watching online, it's a cover of a young woman who is just looking so strong and proud and energized. And so we were shooting actually up at the Catholic Charities Service Center in Round Lake. And working with the photographer, we were capturing meal. There's a story about all the stuff that happens in Round Lake. But so we were, capturing the food pantry, capturing all the stuff. And we were also there was a meeting with a really special program that Catholic Charities has, which is the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. And this woman on the cover, her name is Xochitl Villarreal, and she is a case manager with the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. And we said, well, can we she has this beautiful red hair, which is kind of Catholic Charities red, and which is awesome.
It is.
She's just a beautiful woman. And so we said, oh, can we take your photo? And she was like, oh, really? And it was like, come on, please, can we take your photo? And it turns out that she has been with Catholic Charities for 8 years. She started as a receptionist in their Waukegan office, and she has moved up in a whole bunch of different positions, and she ran operations from the behind the scenes, supporting programs, and she was studying to be a nurse. And she has decided that really isn't what she wants to do, and she is finishing her degree in social work. And so I had to call her, and I said, listen, I know you didn't want your photograph taken, but it's a beautiful photograph. And it was kind of like a cold day, and her hair is blowing, but she just looks wonderful.
And it rose to be the cover.
I know. And I said, you get to be the cover girl. And I said, I said, can I have whichever family member you want to have this set. So she gave me her mom's address. So we sent it to her mom. She was like, oh, yes.
But that's so true, too. Across Catholic Charities, no matter what we do in the communications department, our staff members, our employees are so dedicated to the mission, and they're so humble, and they want to do things quietly that it's often this kind of conversation that we have to say, guess what? We need your photo now, right? We have to convince people to allow us to use their photo, because in general, people are doing their work for the right reasons. They're so humble. They're so dedicated just to helping people in need. But I'm glad you convinced her, because you're right. It is an awesome photo.
Yes.
We've got a lot more to talk about on Spirit Magazine. We're going to throw it to break. We'll come back with Rose Sweeney, who's the editor of Spirit Magazine. You're listening to The Voice of Charity on Catholic Chicago. For more than 20 years, Catholic Charities Adult Protective Services has been advocating for seniors who are the victims of abuse, neglect, confinement, or financial exploitation. With our partners at local, city, and state agencies, our trained case managers follow through on every concern that is brought to our attention in a cooperative way to ensure that our seniors are safe and protected. According to the Illinois Department on Aging, last year nearly 21,000 cases of elder abuse were reported in Illinois. Of these, only 5% were reported by seniors themselves. So raising awareness is an important part of this issue. If you are concerned about a senior you know, call 800-252-8966. That's 800-252-8966. With your help, we can stop elder abuse and look out for the seniors in our lives.
I am a seminarian.
The church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Community is core to Catholic Charities' founding mission. For more than 100 years, we have met people and families where they are, serving anyone in need, regardless of their faith, gender, race, or ethnicity. As our world absorbs the economic, political, and social aftershocks of the pandemic, 50% or more of the 6 million people living in Cook and Lake counties have little or no savings. They are a paycheck away from zero. We are deeply grateful to everyone in the Catholic Charities community who partners with us to alleviate the suffering of the people we serve and offer them a better path forward. We are witnessing a message of mercy and hope to a world very much in need. Learn more at CatholicCharities.net.
Welcome back to The Voice of Charity. I'm Phil Zepeda, joined with Katie Bredemann. We are with Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Chicago, and we are joined this morning in studio. How exciting is that? With the editor of Spirit Magazine, which is done on our behalf, Rose Sweeney. Rose, again, we're glad to have you here to continue this conversation, which is a little in-depth behind the scenes on the creation of Spirit Magazine. And for those of you following our live stream on social media, we're sharing some of the imagery and some of the page pulls from that. Rose, I want to talk to you about one of the content pieces, which is this remarkable donation that Catholic Charities received during the pandemic. And without giving too much away, and the man behind the curtain, share a bit about how this donation was used in a huge way to support the people we serve.
This is just the most incredible story, and one that Sally Blount has, she uses the term awe when she talks about this gift. During the pandemic when, it seems far away now, but if we take ourselves back, we didn't know what was happening. And the people that Catholic Charities serves were being hit the hardest. They were being hit first. They were losing their jobs. There was just so much, and we were all of us were scared. And they received a telephone call. Catholic Charities received a telephone call, and someone said, we have an anonymous donor, and they are interested in giving, between $5 to $10 million a year. And, oh my gosh, can you imagine that? And it ended up, over 3 years, Catholic Charities received $25 million from this donor that has no name, which is just incredible. And so we've been I know that there have been letters, and it's dear anonymous donor, thank you so much. We don't know, And so that's been, I think, it's a little bit of a mystery. But, this has just been a transformational gift because, first of all, if you think about the stress and the strain on social services organizations during that period, it really just alleviated it a little bit.
Right.
Yep.
The second thing is that, so it gave everybody, like, I don't want to say a moment to breathe in terms of not doing their work. I'm saying a moment to breathe in terms of, like, being able to focus on their work.
Absolutely.
We're covered.
And we have a graphic in the magazine where we just showed, like, this was a ripple effect because it got money out to people. I mean, it went to things like, helping buy food trucks, refrigerated trucks, for food delivery. It helped, keep doors open. It helped move behavioral health services to virtual programming. It helped, launch youth initiatives. It reinforced places. And it also, honestly, at a time when you have, like, over 1,200 employees, it helped Catholic Charities invest in building and sustaining this community and fortifying it and nourishing it when, my gosh, the strain of what everybody was doing was really intense. And so this was just, it was, a gift of awe. And the gratitude is boundless.
And we know this so very well during the pandemic. It doesn't hurt to remind our listeners of this. Demand for our services doubled and then tripled in some cases. So this money helped us meet that need,
yes,
as our calling prescribes us to do.
Right.
So
right.
It really helped us deliver service with a greater level of confidence and assurance that we could be there for the people of Cook and Lake counties.
Yes, and I mean, and it ended up, when you think about where some of our partners in the sector were, this was to deliver on this need, to meet the need. It requires resources, and I know that there were pandemic offer. I mean, so many, and here's something. This gift was incredible, but another thing is that every gift to Catholic Charities is incredible because, it's like it, and especially during the pandemic, and it had a ripple effect. It had a ripple effect across our region, and it really, if you think about what paying that forward, what that will look like. There's something that we have in there about burial assistance, and
right.
I was talking with Sally about it, and I said, if you think about what it means to be able to honor someone's passing with dignity, and that's not something you ever want to skimp on,
no.
And so for people that were passing away from COVID, we were able to do it. I know that the state and the government had funding for this, but it took forever, and we were able, with all of the donations and outpouring, to be able to meet need and provide solace and actually honor the lives of those who passed in a way that was fitting.
It's such a beautiful compilation,
Mm-hmm.
and if for folks listening, if you haven't gotten it, we hope that you can get it, and we'll share of how to take a look at a digital version of it. I want to, before we close the show, and Katie will take us out with some additional information about our Mother's Day appeal, I can't talk enough about the photography.
Oh.
So we talked about the cover photo, but we looked to partner with a number of phenomenal photographers: Carlos Ortiz, Kathy Hinkle, Randy Belize, our own Katie Bredemann submitted some photographs that were used. Talk to us about the profound nature of how the photography, again, can almost take over the narrative that's presented.
Well, first of all, it was wonderful, and Phil, you and I worked very closely on commissioning the photography. We spent a lot of time thinking about people who were going to bring a point of view that would capture the Catholic Charities mission in action, and also make people feel comfortable. Like, for example, we took photographs of House of Peace, which is a shelter that supports survivors of domestic violence. And we said we have to have a woman there. We were working with Hispanic populations, and we said we need to have a photographer that can speak Spanish, who's comfortable. We wanted to make sure that we had people of color who would make other, people of color comfortable. It was about affinity and respect and showing dignity over, and it was really exciting. And a lot of the photographers we worked with, Randy, for example, he has a really long history of working with Catholic Charities, and so he's friends with some of the places that we took photographs. But the other ones were photojournalists, long careers, shooting for National Geographic and New York Times and these type of, publications. And so it was a real honor to work with them and see them in action.
It's just thrilling, and you can't lose sight of that joy concept, right?
Right.
And that's threaded through everything here. The stories. And it's even an element that we brought into our Mother's Day appeal. So, Katie, you want to share some information on
Absolutely, Phil. We should add that this issue of Spirit Magazine, it coincides with our annual Mother's Day appeal. And for those who are not familiar with it, when Catholic Charities started back in 1917, our first slogan was "Women and Children First," so that we could address all of the destitute women and children who were left behind as the result of World War I. And so that theme started through the early part of the 20th century, and we're continuing in that annual collection today. And Rose, as you tried to incorporate that into Spirit, what were some of the key elements of this year's Mother's Day appeal that you tried to highlight in this issue of Spirit?
Well, we have some stories of some incredible mothers, and we also tell the story of this House of Peace, which is a really wonderful place where mothers can go and they can live with their children for 6 months, and they get therapy, they get support, they get job counseling, and it's in transitional time to stabilize their family, get them on their feet, build up savings, heal, and be able to go and start a new chapter of their life. And so we tell some stories of that.
It's beautiful. And Rose, you've done such an amazing job as editor of this edition, previously as graphic designer. Now you're graphic designer and editor. So you carried both of those titles. We look forward to the next issue. I know this one just arrived, but I'm already excited about the next one, and as the planning gets underway very soon. As we said during the show, Spirit Magazine goes to the donors of Catholic Charities, but there is a way for you to get it. If you go online and visit CatholicCharities.net, and you click on Learn More, and then under Listen and Read, there is a tab for Spirit Magazine, and you can download it. You can read it online. You can look at the fabulous photography that's included, read those stories, and invest yourself in an organization that is just so important to the Chicago metropolitan area.
Rose, real quickly, can you just maybe give us a couple bullet points about the most challenging parts of publishing this edition and the most rewarding?
I'll say that, when you have a vision, but when you start to kind of build it, you start to doubt yourself, right? And finally, I was a little nervous about all these pieces coming together over and over, and I tend to dream really, really big, and then I start to realize what the limits are. But at one point, I kind of got everything into the magazine. The stories were all there, and I remember standing back and saying, oh my God, there is so much happening here.
Yeah.
And I felt the energy of it, and I was just like, blown away, even though I knew it, and I was all, putting it all together. When I got to kind of really engage with it and see it all together, I said, oh, this is just the amount of work and service that happens at Catholic Charities is just remarkable. Yes.
Remarkable.
Really
again,
is.
Thank you so much for joining us in the studio today. And again, catch Spirit Magazine via CatholicCharities.net or look for it in your mail.
We also just want to invite you, if you would like to contribute to our Mother's Day appeal, that can also be found at CatholicCharities.net/donate. We'd be so grateful for your generosity in supporting the women and the children that we serve. I too thank you, Rose, for being in the studio today. And we thank all of you for joining us here on The Voice of Charity. We invite you back again next week for another edition of our show. For now, this is Katie Bredemann with Phil Zepeda, and we thank you so much for tuning in and believing in the mission of Catholic Charities.